topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Churchill said, "Those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it." Kevin Hallinan believes that certainly applies to business. Welcome to Winning Business Radio, here at W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. And now, your host, Kevin Hallinan.
Thanks for joining in again today. I'm Kevin Hallinan, and welcome back to Winning Business TV and Radio on W4CY.com, streaming live on Talk4TV.com, and of course, we're on Facebook Live at Winning Business Radio, and we're available after the show in podcast form on every platform imaginable: YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, pretty much wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. The mission of Winning Business Radio and TV, as regular viewers know, and listeners, is to offer insights and advice to help people avoid the mistakes of others, right? Those are to learn best practices, the how-tos, the what-tos, the what-not-tos, to be challenged and hopefully to be inspired by the successes of others, those consultants, coaches, authors, advisors, founders and owners, entrepreneurs, people with expertise. But of course, every successful person I've ever had a chance to has had some form of failure in their lives and careers. So while we all have to get our knees skinned once in a while, I'm driven to keep those scrapes from needing major surgery. Let's endeavor to learn from history so we don't repeat it. I've spent the better part of my career equipping businesses to grow, and that's from solopreneurs to small and medium-sized companies, all the way up to the Fortune 50. I've seen some of those companies win, and to varying degrees, I've seen some fail. And I've had the opportunity to rub elbows with some of the highest performing people around and with some who probably should have found other professions. And in my own businesses, I've had lots of success, but some failures too. I like to think I've learned a lot from those experiences. So yeah, you're going to hear from me, but mostly you're going to hear from our guests, those experts, consultants, et cetera. And today my guest is Tony Pompeo, Managing Director of Sunbelt Business Brokers of Boston. Here's his bio. Tony Pompeo is an experienced business professional and entrepreneur who's owned multiple businesses, including distribution, trucking, sports entertainment, and consumer education. In his most long-standing business, Tony bought, managed, and grew a Boston-based distribution company, successfully steering the company through the Great Recession and the global pandemic, ultimately selling the company to private equity. Tony received his MBA from Babson College and has given multiple lectures at Babson on the topic of entrepreneurship through acquisition and buying and selling small businesses. He's an active board member of the New England Business Brokers Association. He also served in the United States Marine Corps. And because of his own experience running, growing, and selling small businesses, he enjoys guiding other small business owners to reach their own goals. His experiences, education, work ethic, and communication skills enable him to truly understand challenges and work diligently for his clients' success. Tony, welcome to Winning Business Radio.
Thank you, Kevin. Great to be here.
Well, I'm so glad we made this happen. Tell us about your family, first of all.
Yeah, sure. So, it's my lovely wife, Sarah, and I have two children. My daughter's 21 years old, goes to a UNH right now. Mm-hmm. She's a cello performance major.
Oh,
She's
wow.
Gifted with music, musician in the family. Mm. And my son, Dominic, he's an apprentice electrician, working hard full-time out there, trying to get all of his 8,000 hours in so we can become a licensed electrician in a couple of years.
Yeah, I was just talking to a good friend of mine about the difficulty in finding those guys. So good for him and good for her. We're a musical family, and I love the cello. It's such a beautiful sounding instrument. So awesome. And do I understand Sarah's in the business with you?
Sarah, yes, she is the real estate broker of record.
Mm-hmm.
So not only do we help business owners when they want to sell the business, we also help them to sell the real estate.
Should they choose to do so?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. All right, so you grew up in Braintree, Mass. Tell people who are not from Massachusetts about Braintree and a little bit of what it was like to grow up there.
Yeah, well, Braintree has gone from a town many years ago when I lived there and grew up there. It's a city now, so it's really grown up. But pretty much a bedroom community. A lot of people knew each other. I went through the Braintree public school systems, all the way from second grade, and graduated from Braintree High School. I still have a good group of friends from that town,
Nice.
but I ventured out and I'm sowing my own seeds in Walpole.
Yep. Who were some of your early influencers?
Oh, geez. I would say that from a personal perspective, I really enjoyed learning from and being influenced from my coaches, primarily in sports and primarily soccer.
Soccer.
Yeah. So we were lucky enough at Braintree High to have a professional from Europe come over in my junior year and assist with the head coach there, and really, just instill different type of sports work ethic into us. And I got to see, kind of learn from, how he just kind of worked hard and worked his way up and stayed very focused. And that definitely is something that, if I look back, was an inspiration to me.
That's cool. Now, did you work as a kid?
Yes, I had something called a paper route.
A what? No, yeah.
Anymore, but they're fantastic. It was a fantastic after school job, and I had that in started in sixth grade, and I kept that like through a little bit of high school. Actually, I was pretty flexible and made some money, and it was a great little job to have. And then
was it in the morning or
bigger? It was after school. I delivered 30 or 40 papers after school, and then Saturday mornings we would deliver it. And then into high school, I ventured away from that and got other small odd jobs.
Yeah, well, that's cool. That's cool. Did you have any family members who were in business?
Yes. Well, my father is an independent operator of a trucking business, just solar operator, but he wanted to go out. He wasn't always. When I was growing up, it's what he aspired to do. He worked for another family member who owned a trucking company, and he ended up getting his own. And so I watched that happen before my eyes. And then there's other sides of my family that definitely have larger businesses that I was interested in as well.
And did you spend time around them? Did you get kind of that bug early on?
Yeah, I did. I think just I would actually go to their businesses sometimes. I would wash and wax their trucks on the weekends to make extra money, and just kind of be around that business and hear about the stresses of payroll, and just kind of, I was kind of around it more than I thought I was when you look back.
So when, and by the way, thank you for your military service. When and why did you decide to join the Marine Corps?
So I joined the Marine Corps after part of my college, my college career, or I guess my path was not very straight. It was a very crooked line. Yeah.
Nor mine. Yeah.
Yeah. So after about a year and a half of college, I ran out of some money and need to kind of refocus, and I had time and also a desire still to want to do something with my life in terms of, going into the military, I guess, to say that. Yeah. And to serve my country. And the Marines was a good path for me. I kind of aspired to have that band of brothers around me. I might have been missing that a little bit at the time. I was only child, and I think having like a whole band of brothers around you, like another second family, was kind of important to me. That mentality and that notion. But I decided to go in the reserves, so I still had a huge aspiration to go to college. Yeah. So they had like a summer program for boot camp, and you went two summers back to back. So you did one, and you went through boot camp and became a Marine, went through all that training, and you went back to college. And then the following summer, you ended up doing your training for your what you're going to do as a job in the Marines. And after that, it was 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year, which kind of really fit in with still wanting to go back to college, which I did. And
they help pay for that.
They'll pay for some of it, yes.
Yeah. So what was the best part? Maybe that was it. I don't know. But what was the best part for you of being in the Marines? And what are maybe a lesson or two that you've taken or kept with you all these years later?
Yeah, well, my wife tells me now that because I've kept such good friends that they're really my family.
Yeah.
Everything that happens on the weekends, or we have Marine Corps birthday parties, and
Hmm.
my closest 7 or 8 friends are all in the Marines, and so we've really grown that family that I looked for. When I was younger, it stayed with me this whole time, which is really fantastic. And from a I guess from a learning perspective, they talk a lot about, teaching leadership,
Mm.
and some people, there's two thoughts on that, right? Some people believe you have to be born a leader. Some people say you can teach leader. Similar to entrepreneurship. Are you an entrepreneur? Did you grow up being an entrepreneur, or
Mm.
can you be taught that? And in the military, I was really shown, especially in the Marine Corps, that leadership can be taught and instilled, um, and not easily. It's not easily done, but it can be replicated and can be instilled. So I had an opportunity to lead some teams in the Marines, and that's something I can always look back at in terms of just inspiration for myself to kind of keep
Mm.
going too.
I mean, we'll get there, but you've led teams since. So, what was behind the decision to get a bachelor's of psychology, and why UMass Boston?
Yeah. So after I went into the Marines, I went back to school for maybe another 2 or 3 semesters, and that was actually at Wentworth,
Oh yeah.
studying architecture, which I
Yep.
decided I did not want to be an architect after spending 2 or 3 years
Yeah.
learning how to be one.
Yeah.
And so then I stopped going to college for a while. I still wanted to, but I didn't know really who I wanted to be or what I wanted to do. So I was working full time in sales, direct sales,
Mm.
B2B sales.
Mm.
And I decided at that point, I was learning about business more, and I kind of knew I wanted to get into business for myself one way or another.
Yeah.
And I didn't need, but I wanted to get an MBA. And I heard about this fantastic MBA program at Babson. And
Mm.
so the only reason I went to even get my undergraduate degree was so I could go and get my MBA there. And so I chose
Cool. Yeah.
UMass Boston. Went there nights for 4 years while I was working full time, and had a couple of kids. And I chose psychology because it kind of blended with what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was dealing with people. I was in sales,
Absolutely.
and I wanted to go into business, and so that kind of really fit my background there, so I could focus on that.
So I'm going to take you through a few of these positions, and these answers can be fairly brief. But uh, let's see, Network Plus, a couple of years, assistant sales manager. Just tell us a little bit about that job.
Yeah, Network Plus was kind of my real first big corporate company job.
Yeah.
They had about 600 or 800 people up and down the East Coast. It was headquartered in Quincy,
Yep.
and I came in there and I didn't really know much about outside sales, but they were just looking for hungry people to hit the phones.
Yeah.
And they gave me a yellow page book and said, go call as many business owners as you can and start setting some appointments. And there was some training that went along with it. But what there was great hardcore sales closers and openers there
Yeah.
that could really mentor you in growing your book of business and learning how to write contracts and get deals done. And so I really cut my teeth there, and that company was growing dramatically. After my second or third year there, I was promoted to help run a New Hampshire branch as an assistant branch manager. So I got promoted out of the Quincy office and went up there to help lead a team up there, that was great. And unfortunately, .com,
Yep.
and they went bust. But I got a great experience there.
Then you went to Verizon, not a small company, a great company to work for, right?
Yeah, so it was funny because Network Plus, we were kind of stealing business from Verizon, and that's how we
Yeah.
we got business. And then went to Verizon and was kind of stealing it back. So I had the experience there.
That's funny.
But it goes, I guess it was during a recession, and
Yeah.
I was kind of grasping at, I needed a job, and fantastic company for me, a lot of red tape, very large.
Yep.
I realized
Yep.
that I gave it a try. It wasn't the place for me to live forever, but it was great to get a taste of it, and fantastic company.
So then you went a little smaller to New England Office Supply, who I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll come full circle back to Network Plus.
Mm.
One of my great mentors there who helped me get promoted up to that Nashua office. He was the sales manager at New England Office Supply, a local office supply company. And he was just trying to get me over there for months and months and months. And he didn't have to try too hard, but I just wanted to stay at Verizon for at least a certain amount of time before I jumped ship.
Right.
I went over to New England Office Supply as a salesperson, B2B again, trying to get local businesses to buy their office products and office supplies from us instead of competitors. And a few years into that, ended up being promoted to a sales manager there on the management team, and really learned a lot about being on the management team. And that company was run fantastically, really learning a lot about distribution companies in general, because that's really what it is.
All right. We're going to come back and talk about imported foods that people will understand why in a moment. We're going to take our first commercial break right here. Everybody, we'll be back with Tony Pompeo in about a minute.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
Bestian Wealth Management is family-owned for 2 generations. They take pride in thoughtful financial planning and wealth management with a family feel for your closely held family business. Bestian Wealth Management focuses on deep planning, integrating your business planning with personal. They will help put your money to work and your mind at ease. Go to bestianwealthmanagement.com for more information. Advisory services offered through Commonwealth Financial Network, a registered investment advisor. Join the Bestian family and let our family advise your family. That's bestianwealthmanagement.com for your complimentary initial consultation.
Have you ever dreamt of being on the radio? Well, now is your chance. Be a radio show guest on the #1 ranked internet radio station and promote you and your business for free. Yes, you heard it, free. Business advertising right here on W4CY.com. Call 561-506-4031 now to get booked on one of our shows. That's 561-506-4031. Get your free advertising now.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
We're back with Tony Pompeo, managing broker of Sunbelt Business Brokers of Boston. Now it gets cool because you founded you purchased the company. It was already existing, right? But you grew it. So I want you to tell us that story. Imported Foods in South Boston in 2008.
Sure, yeah. So that kind of really takes me back to getting my MBA at Babson. And kind of I'll start there because that's why that happened. While I was at Babson, I initially wanted to start a company and raise money, and realized I didn't really have a passion for a product or a service, and I didn't want to try and go down that road. And so I started looking into investment banking, which is more about buying and selling huge companies. Didn't really like that as much either, and I just really learned about a whole process about how to buy small companies, and they had a whole track on that, and fell in love with that, and realized that I had a chance at doing that. So while I was in school, going nights to Babson and working full time, I had a 4 and a 6-year-old at the time, and realized that I really wanted to own my own distribution company. I was working at New England Office Supply at the time. I had the experience I felt to step into something if possible, if something I could find something. So I went on a search to buy a small business, made offers on multiple different ones, and ended up buying Imported Foods in 2008, which was a food distribution company that we sold rices and spices and pastas and oils and vinegars, all the dry goods stuff, and kind of in big packages that you'd see kind of behind in the kitchen that the chef would use to make all the foods, basically ingredients. And that was in 2008.
It was an upscale, or were upscale brands?
Yes, upscale brands, correct. Yes. Yeah. Stuff that are more like called specialty foods, specialty goods.
What was the hardest part of taking that over?
Well, I think gaining knowledge transfer from the
Mm.
existing staff and owners.
Did they
For me
stick
to come
around for a
in,
while?
they did. Yeah, we had them on a consulting contract to
Hmm.
stay in the business
Hmm.
and transfer relationships that were
Yeah.
multi-generational.
Wow. Yeah.
So that is a challenge, and then making mistakes, but fixing them quickly and building that trust with the customer base, because it's going to happen. But I think that's how you really make a name for yourself. So that's what I aim to do at the time.
And let's see, take us the timeline that you exited in 24. So that was a good chunk of time. That was,
Yeah, just before 24,
yeah.
in late 23. So yeah, I ran that business for 15 years. My goal actually was to sell it after 10 years in
Yeah.
2018 ish.
Yeah.
And I was a little late on that, so I ended up being somewhere around 2019.
Mhm.
Started taking it to market, and
And you were
got.
doing this yourself.
I'm sorry.
You were doing this yourself.
No, I had a
You did.
broker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had a business brokerage firm. Yep, taking to firm, and yeah, in 2019, and then we were basically at the table in February of 2020. And then
And
the world fell apart.
it did, man. Oh man.
Yeah. So that went away real
Wow.
fast, and I had to, hang on to that for 4 more years and grow it back to bigger and better than it was, until I could really successfully sell it for what I wanted to do with it. Yeah.
So you got a better price by waiting. Not that you were forced to wait, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Was able to get it bigger and better than before, but had to work an extra 4 years to do it. Sure.
Mm. What changes did you have to make to survive and then flourish past the pandemic?
Well, lots of changes actually. It helped me to start 2 other companies within that time frame. But the changes really were, the bulk of the 60% of our business was hotels, and most of them were closed for almost an entire year.
Yeah.
So we really had to downsize staff dramatically, and change our whole stocking strategy as well, because we stored a lot of products, so 4,000 items. So we had to figure ways to kind of bring in just-in-time inventory to get stuff out the door as needed for certain customers, and just downsize dramatically. And then the bigger part that was hard for a while, and we got good at that, even though it was much smaller scale. The hardest and craziest thing really was magically growing it back. Just getting calls, and everyone came back to work. I need orders, I need orders, and well, we didn't have all the inventory, just waiting around, months later.
Yeah.
So that was a challenge. Yeah.
But that's a testament to the trust you built previously.
Yeah, true. That's true. Yeah. And we got all of them back. We got all the customers back. So that.
All right. So there are 2 intriguing businesses I want you to talk about, because I'm a shooter too. We've talked about that. Greater Boston Gun Safety School and Greater Boston Airsoft, an indoor
Sure. Yeah.
shooting range. That's pretty cool. So tell us about those businesses.
So so during COVID, prior I was working normal, business owner hours, 40, 50 hours a week, running my company, Imported Foods. And all of a sudden, COVID hits, and I have lots of time on my hands.
Yeah.
I'm done by 10 or 11 in the morning most of the time. And my staff wasn't there anymore. The staff that I held on to was either working remotely or they were delivery drivers. So I had all this office space that was open and nobody there. And I couldn't grow my company by selling different things to them at Imported Foods. I couldn't pivot, as they say, back then. I couldn't sell them something else. They were closed. A lot of hotels were closed. So with a military background, and my own gun license, I noticed while I was helping with some deliveries that there was a lot of riots going on in Boston, and it was kind of crazy at that time during COVID. And I just thought to myself, everyone's going to want a gun in Boston right now, and there's not a lot of places that teach the gun safety certificate school
In the city, right?
In the city, yeah. So,
Yep.
So I built a website, hired some instructors that teach these types of classes, and started Greater Boston Gun Safety School. Within day one, there was literally lines out the door like I thought there would be, and turned into a very successful academy. And employed multiple instructors, gave all sorts of different types of trainings, not just a safety certificate school, but also pistol training. Thing is, in Boston, you can't really open another gun range, or you can't really do pistol training except if you're at the existing ones. So we use something called airsoft guns, which are basically, if you know what paintball guns are, these are just the same thing, except they shoot little plastic BBs. And there's a whole cult following of people who shoot, these airsoft pistols. And so we did trainings with those, and the instructors loved being able to teach with them. And then we had some people who loved playing the sport of airsoft come in to get their gun safety licenses and said, wow, we love these guns too. And you have this whole warehouse open in the back, because we didn't have any food products in there at the time. We really minimized our inventory. So, I did some research there, and I just had a whole band of good people that really wanted to grow an airsoft business in the space that I had. And that's what I could kind of pivot to. And I was enjoying myself, growing another business. The gun safety school was kind of on rails, just rolling. And so I started an indoor airsoft basically it was like a shoot house. Basically, we built out an entire 3,000 square foot house on the inside of our warehouse with doors and windows and everything you can imagine. And we had that running, and every weekend, just tons of consumers coming in to play that sport, which was great.
So, a quick funny story about airsoft. My kids still laugh at this. Every time I go into my backyard, I still live in the house where we raised our kids, and I'm doing something with digging or hoeing, or I find these BBs.
Yeah, you do.
Little yellow or little green BBs, and I'll take a picture and I'll send it to my boys. We just laugh.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely. We have some at our house too. Trust me.
Yep. So when you exited from the two schools, or the airsoft and the safety school, how did that exit take place?
Yeah, so it was primarily, there was a lot of things that were timing out.
Yeah.
It was 2023, and I was going to market with imported foods.
Yep.
And I had these other two businesses operating in the same space.
Right.
And so I knew I had to sell all of them or disband some of them. And so I was really fortunate enough within 2 months of each other to be able to sell the gun safety school to a competitor, a strategic purchase locally. So that business is still up and running, which was great. And they took a lot of the inventory, such as the pistols and whatnot, for training purposes for that as well. But unfortunately, they did have to close down the airsoft facility.
Well, you probably needed the space back, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I needed it back. Yeah.
All right. So tell us about the transition from, and we'll start this and then we'll take our commercial, but the transition from that successful exit, I want you to tell us about that, and then Sunbelt.
Sure. So, so the transition from selling. So basically, yeah. So I mean, I just like what I did when I bought the company. I was on a consulting contract for a while, working with the buyers, and it was good because I had a good management team in place, and the business was, growing. And I helped, just like before, to transition those relationships. However, the business wasn't really about just my relationships, and I made sure of that. Yeah. So it was very smooth. It didn't take a lot of time. There wasn't a huge trust rebuilding, and everything was, documented and ready to go for the most part.
That's good. That's good. And then, so what drew you to business brokerage? You had multiple experiences there, so that's probably part of it. But why Sunbelt?
Yeah, well, I knew coming out of imported foods that I wanted to get into some sort of deal making, some sort of merger and acquisition type business role. And I just didn't know exactly where I was going to land.
Did you go through a search process? Did you work with a broker to identify what might work for you? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I talked to some coaches, some
Yeah.
lifetime coaches,
Okay.
to
Yeah.
try to give me an idea of where it might be a best fit for me. And I didn't know if I was going to go and try and work at a small investment bank or an M&A firm. I'll tell you right now, I didn't have the network to get into those type of places because I did try.
Mm.
Um, and I didn't know if I was just going to hang a shingle and be Tony Pompeo business broker, Tony Pompeo M&A advisor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And somehow Sunbelt, this opportunity at Sunbelt came across my computer, and there was an opportunity for the Massachusetts and Rhode Island territories for Sunbelt, which is a national franchise.
Hmm.
And I just thought to myself, wow, this is right in my
Yeah.
backyard. And
Yeah.
I think I might be able to do something with this. I want to learn more about it.
All right. We're going to take a break right here. We'll be back with Tony in about 1 more minute.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
Bestien Wealth Management is family-owned for 2 generations. They take pride in thoughtful financial planning and wealth management with a family feel for your closely held family business. Bestien Wealth Management focuses on deep planning, integrating your business planning with personal. They will help put your money to work and your mind at ease. Go to bestienwealthmanagement.com for more information. Advisory services offered through Commonwealth Financial Network, a registered investment advisor. Join the Bestien family and let our family advise your family. That's bestienwealthmanagement.com for your complimentary initial consultation.
The YP.com website is your local search engine. If you're looking for a good restaurant, it can help you find the right one nearby with ratings and reviews. Or if your car breaks down, you can use the YP app to find the closest repair shop. Or maybe you're just looking for something to do on a Friday night. Well, it has great local coupons for all sorts of things in your area. No matter what, when, or where, if you're looking for something, YP Local Search can help you find it. So go to YP.com or download the app to search local, find local, and save local.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
Okay, we're back again with Tony Pompeo, managing broker of Sunbelt Business Brokers of Boston. You chose a franchise. What are the benefits? I mean, we're a franchise too, but tell the audiences what the benefit of a franchise is, benefits are, and why that was good for you.
Yeah, it's a great question because I'll be very straight. I'm not always the biggest fan of franchises.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like to shop local,
Mm-hmm.
and again, that's how I've been for most of my life. But so this was kind of a big decision for me, a big choice, and I really wanted to take a deep dive into Sunbelt, and I did a lot of due diligence on it before moving forward for sure. Speaking with a lot of other franchise owners around the country, and my take on Sunbelt was they're very hands off, and I was very kind of excited about that. And they, my take was, I'm at a certain point in my career where I would love to fast forward things a couple of years, and I think that the training that they provided, the instant website, SEO, things of that nature, were already packaged up and ready for me to kind of jump right into it, and then have that platform behind me as well from a training standpoint to grow a company, because I still knew that I had another, enough gas in the tank to go build another firm or two.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was excited about with Sunbelt.
All right. So give us a thumbnail view of the work that you do.
Sure. So, well, I'll start with this. Sunbelt's been around since the late 70s, and in the 90s, they really grew to be a pretty large national business brokerage with a couple hundred offices around the country, and focusing more on the more Main Street, smaller companies, call it business, companies that will use a business broker to sell their company. And these business many times have less than $1 million in earnings.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of where a lot of people draw the line in terms of Main Street type business, sometimes significantly less than that, but definitely less than $1 million in earnings. Sales can be anywhere from probably 500,000 up to maybe 10 million, somewhere in that range.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are the types of the size of businesses that we typically work with at Sunbelt. There are also ways that we can talk with companies that are a little bit larger if we have some connections with some private equity firms as well. And the businesses we work with, they really need to be profitable, have steady or growing revenues, or else a good story to tell around that if it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for the profitability is many times these businesses are going to be financed. And if they're not profitable or sales are way down, then it's hard to do that.
Tell us about, I have a financing question as well, but first tell us about SBB Capital Partners.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad you brought that up. So SBB Capital is the M&A division of Sunbelt.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is where we have lots of contacts over the years through Sunbelt. We've pulled them into SBB Capital Partners to be able to market the larger companies. I would say with my firm, we're probably at like 80% on Main Street, smaller companies. And then we'll come across a decent manufacturing company that's, got $1.5 million of EBITDA, and we can put that in front of private equity to sell or go to strategics to sell. So it's really just a different brand. And many times you kind of need that in this business because it's just different ways that you market a company. If they're smaller, you're marketing to people who want to kind of buy a job, maybe putting it out on the internet confidentially.
Right.
If it's larger, you're marketing to private equity or competitors. So it's kind of a different branding to get the same thing done to a certain degree.
And so take us from the seller's perspective, what the process of selling a business is like with your advice. But then I want to ask you from your perspective, right? So first, from the seller's perspective, describe the process.
Sure. So for a seller, they're going to meet with us, and we're going to just learn a lot about what they want to accomplish. Not only with their business, but after their business. It's very important what the motivation is for them to sell their company. And so they might not realize that's part of the process, but it becomes part of the process, and they talk to us about these things. And then they're going to be sharing the story of their company with us, how they got there. We're going to talk to them all about operational dynamics and financials. Those are kind of the big things that we go through. 99% of the time, Kevin, business owners are not going to sell their business unless they know what the value of the company is. So that's one of the first things that ends up happening if they like our discussion and they want to move a little bit forward with us in the process. We're going to put a market range of value on their company by looking at their financials. And at that point, we're going to have another discussion about that because there has to be some reality baked into it.
Right.
A lot of business owners, many businesses don't know what their business is worth, and they shouldn't. That's not what they do all day. They're good at running their company, and they're not looking at their financials in that capacity. But they might have a need to make X amount of dollars to retire, but it doesn't. The need and the reality of what the business is worth aren't always the same thing. So we have to have that conversation as well.
So there seems to be a common belief that business owners are going to value, like a homeowner, they're going to value their business mentally greater than it actually is. Does that happen a lot? Many
times they do, yes. And they think that someone's going to magically come in and write a check for it. But there's two sides of that equation. There's a return on investment side from the buyer as well. Right. That's what they're looking at. Yeah.
All right. Now talk about, I think it's similar but slightly different, your perspective when you're selling a business.
So when I'm looking at a business, I see it from the buyer. I try to see it from the buyer's eyes. Yeah. That's my perspective most of the time. What I think is kind of unique about my position is I've been on the buyer side before, so I can really empathize with that and see that clearly. And then I understand what the seller is going through as well, because they want to really maximize, that price. But yeah, from the process for me is really determining if this business is sellable, and if the business owner truly wants to sell their company right now. So I'm really digging in deep on both of those things. And one is kind of psychological. Are they ready? Will they pull the trigger? And because it's very emotional. So they might even get the buyer to come in and make a decent offer, and all of a sudden they realize, oh my God, I want to stay. I don't want to do this anymore. So we really need to kind of,
their hands shaking as about to sign.
Yeah, we need to come to terms on that for sure. And then making sure that it is a sellable company, and if not, having that hard conversation with them that it might not be ready to sell yet.
What are some of the maybe misunderstood or understood aspects that would go into valuing a business?
Oh, sure. So most business owners want to reduce their taxable income. And by ways of doing this, they might run their company car through the business. They might take their family to Disney and say it's a travel expense. So be it. I'm not the IRS. But these are things that if you do too many of this, it makes it a little bit harder from a financial standpoint to really extract the true value out of the company, and again, make sure it can be financeable. That's definitely one key thing that people don't think about very often, especially the business owners themselves, until they go through a process with someone like me who can talk them through that. And then maybe times we take a little time to fix that. We try to do the best we can to pull it out now, but some of the things aren't really able to do that with.
So you're going to make adjustments, or you'll show the buyer
yes,
those line items or whatever it is to show there's that much more value. I don't know, let's $6,000 for a car for the year. Well, that's profit.
Correct. We will adjust that and add that back to the bottom line, and all those things. A buyer doesn't necessarily need to run that through the business. They could if they want to, but they don't need to. So that's actually profit they can use whoever they want to use that. The other thing we run into occasionally is cash. And if cash isn't reported, then it can't be part of the
Not
value
much you can do.
of the business either. The business owner saved their 30% when they didn't report it, but they're not going to get the 3x multiple out on the other side. So we run into some of these things too.
So what are the ranges of multiples? And it probably depends on the type of business, et cetera. But what do you see?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And one thing that the people, many business owners wouldn't know is, unlike Zillow, where you can go on and find out what your neighbor's house is worth, right?
That's a good analogy.
For a business, that we actually have private industry databases for private business sales that have been recorded. So every time I sell a company, I record those to these databases privately. It's all confidential, but you see, X revenue and Y profit, and you can.
So these are essentially comps from.
These are comps.
Okay, good. Yep.
Comps for small businesses.
Right.
So we have access to that in multiple different databases. And so those help us to get the value in the right direction as well. And then from a multiple standpoint, the majority of businesses are valued off of real cash flow, earnings really, and you're looking at anywhere from smaller companies, 2 to 3, usually in that range, and that's of earnings, and it's not it's not of sales.
For the audiences.
Yeah.
We say multiple, it's 1 times, 2 times, 3 times earnings.
Yeah.
Right. And you also mentioned a term, which I knew we'd get to, EBITDA. Break that down.
Sure. Well, EBITDA is it's the similar earnings, except you're actually installing a manager to run the company. So it's just going to be it's just a different number. It's earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Which is it's very wordy, but it's a line item on your P&L. And usually companies that are larger are sold based on a multiple of EBITDA, and the smaller companies are sold on a multiple of what's called discretionary earnings, which is earnings plus all those add backs we just talked about. And the buyer is going to step in and be the owner the day-to-day person in that smaller company. Whereas when you're selling a company based on EBITDA multiple, you're assuming that the CEO might stay, or you might be installing a manager. So it's more of an investment platform.
Yeah. If the owner goes away, it's got to have less value. If the owner's going to stick around for a while, it's got to have more value.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Whatever the structure of that is, whether it's a consulting agreement or a higher price, or I imagine there are both of those arrangements, right?
Yep, and the larger companies that are sold on an EBITDA multiple, typically the multiples are higher, and the bigger the company, the bigger the multiple. So you can have a manufacturing company with $3 million of EBITDA that might sell at 4, 5, or 6 times, and then you have a much smaller company. Could be a manufacturing company with the owners making $400,000, probably somewhere between maybe 3 and 4 if they're lucky, somewhere in that range. So it's just it's different on the size and scope.
So now to drill down a little bit, who makes a good? You talked about a good buyer, a good owner, good seller. Who makes a good buyer?
Yeah, so we spend I'd say almost the majority of our time dealing with the buyers. So once we find a real qualified seller, we get them all set up and ready to sell their business. We build a nice marketing deck. We confidentially market it out to these buyers. Some of them who we know, and some of them who we don't. They're inquiring on that business, and now we need to vet them and figure out which ones are considered a great buyer, a good buyer. And there's lots of different checkpoints for that, but initially they're showing interest, which is great. We're finding out, are they casting a wide net to buy a company, or have they already narrowed that down and they know kind of what they want to buy? Do they want to buy a manufacturing company, or are they looking at IT companies, manufacturing companies, laundromats? So that happens, and that's okay, but that's probably not the best buyer. We need to really kind of vet that down to someone who's very interested in this specific company that's for sale that we're representing. And then we're also looking at their background of financials. So if we need X amount of money for them to put down on a company and then to finance the rest, we're making sure that they have bank statements to verify that. Along with that is usually some sort of transferable skill set. So we're looking at their resume. And it doesn't mean that if you never ran a manufacturing company before, that's okay if they want to buy one. Maybe they have some good management experience that they can kind of transfer those skills over to. But you usually have to paint some sort of a picture to be able to step into certain companies, especially with the lenders. But before we even get to the lenders, we want to make sure that we think it's a go.
So cash buyers is probably less, I don't know if scrutiny is the right word, but less requirements financially. They have to have, enough to run the business for a while, but you have access to financing. Do you recommend, you don't have to name names, but you have a stable of banks or firms you could wow, I can't even talk, refer them to, or do you have access to financing?
Yeah, no, that is great question. And, I don't know, most deals are financed. It's just people are using other people's money. And
OPM.
And that's it. And we do. What's important is dealing with lenders that are deal makers and not deal breakers. So we definitely have strong relationships with some of the best bankers out there that we know can get deals done. And every bank has different, risk tolerances as well,
which you probably understand.
So we know kind of where to steer them to for each type of a deal or each type of a buyer, which helps get it to close, because that's just, you can get to the 1 yard line a lot of times. It's really hard to get into the end zone when you're selling your company or buying a company. That's the real catch.
And that's when you get paid, is when paper gets transferred.
That is very true. And I also like to say, if, from a football analogy, when you get to the 1 yard line in football, you get 4 tries. Well, I get unlimited tries. I have to be creative, and I got to find ways to get the deal closed. And that's what I enjoy a lot about doing this too.
Well, believe it or not, we're out of time, but I've got a couple of good questions. Last 2 questions. Who in the viewing and listening audiences should reach out to you, and why? And the second will be how to get in touch with you.
Sure. Well, I'd say business owners with great businesses that are looking to retire or do something different. Glad to have a confidential conversation with you. I also many times like talking with lawyers and CPAs and financial advisors, because I think we kind of live in the same world to a certain degree, and can work well together. And I think that will probably do it with that.
All right, excellent. And the best way to reach you is?
My email address, so you can go on our website. So my email is tpompeo@sunbeltnetwork.com, and I'm on that email all the time.
Perfect. And the website is?
Sunbeltboston.com.
All right, that's nice and easy. Sunbeltboston.com. Tony, thank you so much. I know you're busy. I really appreciate you carving out some time to be with us today.
Kevin, this has been great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'll see you soon. And thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. This is a show about business, sometimes business challenges. If you've got concerns about the sales effectiveness of your company, whether your sales team is you or small or it's large, feel free to reach out to me on on Facebook or LinkedIn, and that's at Winning Business Radio. You can drop me a note to one of my many email addresses. I always say kevin@winningbusinessradio.com. Our company is Winning Incorporated. We're part of Sandler Training. We develop salespeople and sales teams into high achievers and sales leaders into true coaches and mentors. Hey, listen, we're not right for every company, but maybe we should have a conversation. Thanks to producer and engineer Juan for another job well done. Appreciate you, Juan. Be sure to join us next week, Monday, March 9th, when my guest will be Riley DePlacido, founder and CEO of Triumph HR. Until then, this is Kevin Hallinan.
You've been listening to Winning Business Radio with your host, Kevin Hallinan. If you missed any part of this episode, the podcast is available on Talk4 Podcasting and iHeartRadio. For more information and questions, go to winningbusinessradio.com or check us out on social media. Tune in again next week and every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time to listen live to Winning Business Radio on W4CY Radio, W4CY.com. Until then, let's succeed where others have failed and win in business with Kevin Hallinan and Winning Business Radio.